Not long ago, DL Hughley did an episode of Uncertain where he went after what he called the podcast bros, people like Joe Rogan, Andrew Schultz, Charlemagne the God, and even Bill Maher. His argument was that a certain kind of loud media personality has become extremely influential while often saying things with a lot of confidence but not a lot of responsibility. Now, in the latest episode of his show Uncertain, Hughley has turned that same energy towards a different group of figures, Stephen A. Smith, Rob Schneider, and Kanye West. Three very different personalities, but in Hughley's mind, they all represent the same cultural problem. People with massive platforms who dominate the conversation while distracting the public from more serious issues. The first target was Stephen A. Smith. Hughley's frustration with Smith is not about sports commentary. Smith built his reputation debating basketball and football players, and even Hughley acknowledges that he's extremely skilled at that. The problem starts when Smith moves outside that lane.
And Stephen A. Smith, okay, this is going back to a little while. He was on The View. Sonny gave him, listen to this.
So you recently accused Senator Mark Kelly, a veteran, an astronaut, of crossing the line for participating in a video reminding troops that they can refuse to follow illegal orders.
Okay. You know better, Senator Kelly. You know better. How dare you do that? You could go to the House. You can draw up paperwork. You can try to start articles of impeachment if you think there's something illegal. I mean, damn, it ain't like y'all haven't done it before. You don't tell military men and women to ignore an order from the commander-in-chief. You don't do that.
Pete Hegseth said in 2016, I do think there have to be consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief. Okay. Now, given the fact that the secretary himself said that, I'd love to give you the opportunity to perhaps change your position on what you said.
First of all, I don't give a damn what Pete Hegseth has to say because I will tell you right now, he was never qualified for the job.
Given all that we know now, all that's transpired from these now an illegal, ill-advised illegal attack on a country, a threat by the leader of the free world to kill a bunch of people and to basically commit a war crime. Maybe these officers, these former officers and these lawmakers knew where we were headed. Maybe they knew that this was only a natural evolution. This had to happen. But Stephen A. Smith does what he always does. He runs his mouth and has no idea what he talks about. We already have a guy who leaps before he looks, who runs his fucking mouth without knowing what he's talking about. Like he also said this about debates.
I'll tell you right now, I will show up on that stage, not knowing anything compared to what Gavin Newsom might know, or I don't care.
Yep.
Do I believe I would take Gavin Newsom out? Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I believe.
Do I believe I would go against Kamala and beat her? Yes, I do. I think I'd beat most of the Democratic Party because there's too much dancing, and I don't dance.
It's not beyond the bounds of reality that Stephen A. Smith might win a debate against either Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom. I see him debate athletes on his show all the time. That doesn't mean he can play the sport better. Talking shit about a thing is different than doing it. You might beat LeBron in a debate about basketball, but no way in the you gonna draft Stephen A. Smith to do it.
Hughley was reacting to comments Smith made on The View about Senator Mark Kelly. Kelly, who is both a Navy veteran and a former astronaut, had reminded service members that they are obligated to refuse unlawful orders.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
That point comes directly from military law and international conventions that govern war crimes. Smith criticized Kelly for saying it publicly and suggested that military personnel should never be encouraged to disobey the commander-in-chief. To Hughley, that was reckless. He argued that Smith was speaking with absolute confidence about something he clearly does not understand. Even figures within conservative politics have acknowledged that soldiers must refuse illegal orders. Hughley's point was simple. War crimes are not theoretical. History is filled with examples of soldiers being held responsible for following orders that violated international law. This is where Hughley introduced one of his main ideas about media culture. He believes figures like Stephen A. Smith are rewarded for sounding authoritative even when they lack the expertise to back it up. In his view, Smith is not actually expected to solve anything or even fully understand the issues he discusses. His job is to dominate the conversation.
And I said this before, his whole thing isn't to win. He knows he can. It is to be a distraction. It is to dumb us down. It is to keep the conversation off things that matter. Even if you look at the people who are backing him right now, they don't want order. He is no different than Jill Stein was, or somebody who gets on the any third party candidate that tries to get on a ballot so they can shear away enough votes. He's no different than Kanye.
Then he turned to Rob Schneider. Hughley did not hold back here. He described Schneider as one of the clearest examples of someone who has spent decades in comedy without showing much growth. Referencing Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours idea, the theory that mastery comes from years of practice, Hughley joked that the theory apparently skips Rob Schneider entirely. In his words, Schneider has been doing stand-up and acting for decades, yet somehow keeps getting worse.
I was watching Fox News, and Rob Schneider, who's a fucking dick. But this is Fox News.
New York has it down. As soon as they freeze to death, you don't have to call them homeless, you just call them frozen dead people.
Yes. Homesicles.
Homesicles.
Corpsicles.
I will defend anybody's right to say anything about anybody in the service of a joke. But the fact that on this network, we've had them talking about being able to lethally inject homeless people, to having them fight to exist, to letting them freeze to death, that isn't a joke anymore. That's their mentality. A network or a people that are representative, because they're the propaganda arm of MAGA, to the extent that they have one. They're the Al Jazeera of MAGA. The open disdain that they have for people, and the fact that, for homeless people, and the fact that nothing ever happens to them. I think that the only reason we have homeless people is because we have greedy people.
Part of Hughley's frustration comes from Schneider's recent political commentary. Schneider has appeared frequently on Fox News and other conservative outlets discussing topics like homelessness, government policy, and social issues.
I think unhoused is also not very nice.
Yeah.
I don't think it's nice either.
Yeah.
I prefer like people experiencing involuntary stargazing.
That's great. That's very good.
Yeah, it's nicer.
It is nicer.
Positive.
Yeah.
They're
actually putting too much emphasis on the house. In fact, why are we so interested in trying to get them a house?
Yes, I think New York has it down. As soon as they freeze to death, you don't have to call them homeless, you just call them frozen dead people.
Yes.
Hughley argued that Schneider approaches these subjects with open contempt for vulnerable people.
And the greediest people are usually the least talented.
Yeah.
Like, in a weird way, like, have you heard of the 10,000 hours theory?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Were you talking about Malcolm Gladwell?
Yeah.
Yeah, they wrote the book.
I feel like the only place
I don't just do this show. I don't just read when I'm doing the show, young man.
I feel like the only...
I'm not...
Long letters.
Have you seen my Chick-fil-A letter? Have you seen my sonnets?
It's like DL staying up on Valentine's Day. Just writing another chicken letter.
I already did. I wrote it went viral, too. I wrote a letter.
I feel like the 10,000 hours applies to everyone except for Rob Schneider in comedy. Like, somehow that guy keeps getting worse and worse.
He does.
And he's a horrible human. Like,
he is.
I remember seeing him after, it was like maybe a week or two after he gave birth to one of his kids. And he was like hitting on the girl I was with at the time. Like, that's the kind of human he is.
Yeah.
Why are we letting this guy, like, talk about empathy? Why are we letting him talk about homeless issues? Why do we keep platforming when he's terrible?
But even homeless people dress better than him. Though.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
and the greatest form of assistance I've ever seen is what Adam Sandler does to that man. Like, that is more government waste than anything the city of Los Angeles has ever spent.
Well, this was going to air.
Yep.
From Hughley's perspective, Schneider represents a bigger cultural issue. Platforms continue to elevate voices that offer outrage and simplistic commentary, while more thoughtful discussions struggle to reach the same audience. Then the conversation moves to Kanye West. Kanye had just completed a large performance at SoFi Stadium, which drew enormous attention. For many fans, the show was proof that Kanye's artistic power remains intact despite years of controversy. Hughley acknowledged that point immediately. He called Kanye a tremendous performer, someone whose musical talent is undeniable.
So Kanye had a tremendously successful run at SoFi. Everybody was there. Everybody, like all the influencers, everybody's there partying. Everybody wanted to hear the album. Everybody was there. So I think Kanye truly believed that all was forgiven. And then he got booked to do the headline, what festival?
Wireless.
Yeah.
The Wireless Festival?
Yeah. It was actually a something wireless, but then they dropped out.
Right. Yeah, it was a Wireless Festival. I mean, fresh off the success of a huge run at SoFi and the largest media market in the world, no complaints. You get on that plane and like Pepsi was like, hey, hold on a minute. Pepsi was like, and I ain't like Pepsi because they burned up Michael Jackson's hair. You know what I'm saying? See, black people forgave Kanye. Jewish people didn't. He didn't even attempt to apologize. They're like, no. Then everybody else dropped out. So I don't think it's as simple. And there's no debating the fact that he is a tremendous performer. Kanye, in the modern era, he's as good a performer and producer that has ever existed. But after he said what he said about black people, that was a line in the sand I wouldn't cross, that he couldn't cross for me. I'm never going to watch it. It's not my thing. I've never seen, heard a beat that was so dope it made me forget you hate niggas. Yeah. But Jewish people were like, hey, Kanye, the temple's on the phone. Kanye, Moshe wanna come here.
Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to
it ain't. It ain't. We thought it was dope. Everybody forgot everybody was part of it. They didn't.
Yeah.
You don't get to say the reckless, irresponsible things.
Well, what has he said? Because he said so much crazy shit, we forgot.
Well, see, now we didn't. Y'all got to. We didn't. Slavery was a choice.
Yeah.
He talked about civil rights leaders. He did the whole, all lives matter. He wore a shirt, him and Candace Owens being disrespectful. We talked about he was a
George Floyd shit.
He talked about George Floyd, and he had to, it was a lot of shit that he did.
But Hughley believes that talent has allowed Kanye to escape accountability repeatedly. He used a striking analogy from religious history. In the Bible, Lucifer is described as the minister of music, a figure whose talent and charisma was so powerful that he convinced other angels to follow him in rebellion. Hughley said Kanye's ability to mesmerize audiences operates in a similar way. When the music is powerful enough, people are willing to overlook almost anything else.
Anything else you need there?
Well, so why is he allowed to play at SoFi Stadium if he said all these awful things?
Well, allowed because and people went. But I think what I will say is that after those things, the makeup of his audience changed.
What do you mean?
I don't think there were not black influencers and stuff went, but a lot of black people were offended by it. I know I was, and I'm not saying I'm a lot of black people, but I think a lot of people were offended by it. And it would be the kind of upper episode, the Dave Chappelles and the Lauryn Hills and the people who, kind of have an artistic vantage point that kind of blends them together. But a lot of people, I know, I won't play his music. It's just. I think.
Why is Dave Chappelle doing that? Like, why is Dave Chappelle allowing the fact that this is one of the greatest achievements? Like, doesn't that feel off?
I can only tell you this. I can say two things didn't happen. I wouldn't go see him, and Jewish people wouldn't go to see him either.
Right.
Excuse me, Kanye, the Tabernacle wanna. And I really thought, and I think everybody thought, even the promoter probably saw this run at SoFi. I was like, okay,
yeah,
all's forgiven. And first it was just one, then everybody dropped out.
Yeah. And then that SoFi Stadium, that SoFi show was mostly Gen Z, young white people that were going to see Kanye.
I don't think that you can negate the fact that people, by and large, are very transactional. A lot of people, if he didn't say anything about you and it didn't affect you, you're more likely to not care about it. I think that he initially was the wind underneath MAGA's wings. Like he was wearing MAGA, Make America Great hat when nobody was doing it.
Public reaction to Kanye's SoFi performance reflected that divide Hughley talked about earlier. Some fans celebrated the show and treated it as proof that the controversies were behind him.
80,000 people, no promotion, 2 nights at one of the biggest stadiums in California. If you were one of the 80,000, I am jealousy. Because what do you mean? He played Ghost Town and then run away right after? Like, I would have been emotional. Like, don't look at me. Don't look at me. Because I'm crying. I'm sobbing. Those 2 songs back to back. And can we get into like the set design, like the lighting design, bro?
Others saw it as another example of the public overlooking damaging rhetoric because the music remains compelling.
Kanye West sold out show. Yes, I am talking about the man who pushed NAZI propaganda, who said that slavery was a choice, who parades around his apparently wife in a way so degrading I don't think I have a reference for it in the public eye in modern history. He sold out his show. In attendance at his show include people like Lauryn Hill, Erykah Badu, Chloe Bailey. We're all here watching that man perform. Why? I know his fans, because apparently there are quite a few of them left, are going to jump to his defense. Oh, but his mental health. Oh, but he's evolved as a person. Oh, but he's just for the culture. No, he isn't. No, he isn't. And those aren't excuses. How is he for the culture if he turns his back on the culture and the people every time he gets the chance? Because he does. How can we say that it's all about his mental health and how we need to support him in his mental health when he isn't supporting himself in his mental health and hasn't time after time after time? This is going to sound terrible, but in a lot of ways, I expect men to let me down. I'm not shocked that the Kanye West concert is actually chocked full of men who were there. Something in my heart literally aches every time I see a bunch of women, especially successful Black women, following around a loser like a bunch of birds. I just feel like women should know better because of our position and our relationship with things like oppression and misogyny and like education and compassion. But I just need to accept that sometimes women are just losers.
Hughley argued that Kanye's audience has also shifted over time. Increasingly, he sees crowds filled with younger listeners who care more about the spectacle and the songs than the political implications of Kanye's statements. In Hughley's words, the relationship between Kanye and his audience has become transactional. If the music is good enough, people will forgive almost anything.
He brought, as a matter of fact, Nick Fuentes to the White House. Remember that? To Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, to dinner with Trump.
I don't forget shit like that.
And I would imagine a lot of Jewish people didn't forget that he tweeted, go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people.
Yeah.
I also didn't.
Apparently they didn't.
Also, are we forgetting the song he wrote about, like, his cousin as a kid?
Yeah, but I've said this before. That talent, that level of talent, is mesmerizing. Artists, and we love them because they evoke something in us. Like, in the Bible, they talk about how the minister of music, Lucifer, was beautiful. He was just the most beautiful angel, had the most beautiful voice, and was very talented. And he was so charismatic and so talented that he talked other angels into fighting God. If the Bible's to believe. You're like, yeah, man, we could be God. Can you imagine how dope you are as an artist when you make angels who see God go, you're right.
Try to get your brothers and sisters to fight your daddy.
Right.
And see how they
That's what I'm saying.
And then just of the other angels being like, the hell song.
Right. That's how bad we need to feel good. I remember when Kanye first started going on these little rants, everybody would say his mother died. Everybody's mother dies.
Right.
Everybody's father. That's the way it works. If it works the way it was designed, we will lose our parents first. And then our children will lose us. But they don't make excuses for people that are artistic. I guarantee you that any number of homeless people have had tragedies they can't reconcile and they go crazy. But you don't make excuses for them.
No.
You don't go. But it's when you're an artist and you can evoke
whose
emotion.
parents also died before they were 19?
Yeah, yeah. Charisma and somebody making us feel things and can give voice and music and tone to that feeling. They imbue themselves in our psyche.
That brings the conversation back to Hughley's larger theme. Whether he's talking about Stephen A. Smith, Rob Schneider, or Kanye West, Hughley sees a pattern. Each of these figures command huge attention. Each dominates headlines and social media debates. And in Hughley's opinion, all three help pull public focus away from more serious issues. Stephen A. Smith, he says, turns political debate into performance. Rob Schneider represents a kind of media outrage economy where cruelty is rewarded with airtime. Kanye West uses extraordinary artistic talent in ways that blur the lines between cultural influence and political distraction. The details are different, but the effect looks similar. And that is the point Hughley keeps coming back to. In a media environment full of loud personalities, it becomes harder and harder to separate entertainment from influence. The audience is left sorting through a constant stream of confident voices, each claiming authority over topics that affect millions of people. For Hughley, that confusion is not accidental. It is the system working exactly as designed.